This is WION World of Cricket, and we are counting down to the ODI World Cup in India. We've been looking at teams. Today we are talking about a team that is known across the world as the Chokers. Can South Africa shed their choker stack? Sri Lanka's 1996 World Cup winning coach Dav Whatmore is here with me. He's got a smile on his face because he knows firsthand how South Africa have messed things up in the past. Dav, let's start with 2003. It's the home World Cup for South Africa. You are coach of Sri Lanka. They need to sort of win the match to go through to the next phase, which is the Super Sixes as it was back then. And then they forget the calculations. Were you sitting in your sort of room up there with the rest of the team? There was no concept of dugouts back then, and wondering, gosh, what's going on here?
Well, I remember it like it was yesterday, you know. Sadly for South Africa, they weren't properly advised on the Duckworth-Lewis system. The Duckworth-Lewis calculation with all the figures after every ball, after every over, is a pass score. So it's whatever the figure says where you should be, you've got to add one.
Okay.
But
hang on, you had this list with you.
Yeah,
you knew what the equation was.
Teams usually have 2 or 3 copies each, and sometimes you send that piece of paper out in the middle if you think that's what they require. So you know, we were aware and what was going on, and when we were getting knocked around, it looked like, gee, it was raining and it was getting heavier, but umpires wanted to, I'm sure, wait until the end of the over. They were just knocking Muralidhar around.
But Sri Lanka were through.
We were through. So
Yeah.
I remember thinking, not nice to lose, but anyway, you know, we're through to the next round.
And then Boucher hits Murali for a 6.
Yeah, and it was easy. It was raining, as I said, so the ball was just coming on nicely on the bat. Murali wasn't getting any purchase. And then he just, I think it was 2 balls, just blocked.
One ball, he blocked one ball.
Blocked one ball, okay. And then the umpire called over and it was just too heavy. And off they came. And at that point, I'm sure the batsman felt, okay, we're through. We've reached that target, which is written on the sheet of paper, but it's a pass score.
Oh.
And you have to add 1 run. And it never stopped after that. There was plenty of time to resume the game, but it never stopped.
And it didn't stop the gaffes, the beams.
Yeah.
And they were gone. They were out of the home World Cup. And it's sort of that added. See, I don't think it's their fault what happened in 92. 96, they were at the end of a shellacking from Brian Lara. But the 99, they had an opportunity to knock Australia out twice. They couldn't do that.
In England.
This happened 2003. 2011, Ross Taylor happened. Actually, as we are speaking, we're going to see those sort of the list of, infamous list of Sri Lanka at the World Cup, Sri Lanka at the T20 World Cups. And sort of every World Cup, it's sort of added, no? The pressure has added. And that's why people around the world refer to them as chokers. I, in fact, spoke to Kagiso Rabada. He took no offense for that. With me saying that, how do you get rid of the stag of chokers? And he had no offense with it.
I think you need to acknowledge before you can move on. And he's done the right thing.
Yeah. So, has it surprised you the way it's happened? Because it shows it's mental more than anything else. And obviously, it's like an albatross around their necks.
Well, surely, yeah. You would think, looking at the teams that have come out over the last so many World Cups, that surely nobody would have been surprised to see them win it. You know, Kirsten, Boucher, Donald, Pollock, Klusener, wonderful players, but something continues to happen which prevents them from moving on, and it's mental.
Okay, this time they're going in very much under the radar. And there wasn't much buzz. I remember speaking to Rabada and he says, very happy with this lack of buzz. But then they go and beat Australia. And they come back from 2-0 down. And the way they beat them, I start thinking, hang on, this team can do serious damage if they get it right on that day. You think that's something you think is going to help them? They're under the radar?
Surely. I felt the same way as you. When they were 2 down, I thought, oh, this is going to be a whitewash. Came back and they won 3-2. And yes, they are under the radar this time. And I think that's a very good thing for them. Because say they miss out on the semi-final. Well, they weren't meant to be there anyway, so nothing much lost. Whereas if they were coming in with, again, with a tag of strong team, and then they don't make it, then again the choker word comes out. So I think it's a good thing that they're going under the radar a little bit. And yes, it's good to also come into a tournament like this with some confidence, beating Australia. It was in their home ground though, you know, give them that. But still, I'm not taking anything away. Great effort, but greater tests are waiting.
Especially in this World Cup. You know, let's look at the squad. The South African squad. Obviously, there's been a couple of forced changes that have happened, but a lot of newcomers. I think 8 to 9 players are going to be playing their first World Cups, including the captain, Temba Bavuma. How do you respond to this? I mean, do they have the players who are missing out, like you said, in Sri Lanka? Angelo Matthews is sitting out. But I think this is South Africa's best 11.
I think it is. You know, they've definitely in a little transition phase as well, but they've unearthed some really good players as well. And as you said, on their day, they could surprise any team. But then, you know, most teams would say the same thing, right? But we're discussing South Africa, and yes, they have the potential. They're coming in without a lot of the clashing of the cymbals and beating of the drums. So I think that's a good thing for them. And, you know, they have a chance. We will discuss more when we see the individuals in that 11. But certainly they can spoil the party, that's for sure.
In fact, I have them pretty much in my list for the semis, and I don't know if it's going to be their party or I'm going to get bashed up. But one name missing from that is obviously Andrek Nokia. I was actually looking forward to seeing Nokia and Rabada bowl in tandem. Remember, Rabada knocked Cam Green and sort of hit him on the head. That's what express pace can do. It puts fear in the mind of batters. But sad for Nokia because it's the second consecutive World Cup he's had to miss out. Is that a big blow for them to having two? Because you spoke about Mark Wood earlier on when you were talking about England. But two bowlers. How many teams in world cricket boast two bowlers bowling 150 plus?
Yeah, it's a very big blow for them, no question about that. We talk about batsmen batting in pairs and partnerships. Same with bowlers. You strike up a real good rapport with a particular bowler, and more times when that happens, you get the reward with both of you going at the same time, and it would have been just wonderful to see express pace. It doesn't happen very often, but as I said earlier, no batsman live is comfortable with express pace. Sadly for him though, Nokia, he won't be around, so they'll have to put a bit more pressure on Rabada and one or two of the others.
Yeah, but the likes of Lungi and Gidi and Philip Wayo are not going to sort of hit. They're not going to make that bat when the ball hits the bat. You feel that jar through you. That's not happening.
It's not. Nokia will hit the bat really hard. You know, these other two they'll try hard, but a bit more pressure on them. But it's sad for him. You know.
Yeah, and for South Africa. Let's just look at their batting depth, because you have Quinton de Kock saying this is going to be my last ODI tournament, and he's with Bavuma. This sort of, it's a contrast in the way they play.
Yeah.
But then you have Rassie van der Dusen, who, when the situation sort of arises, can tonk it as well. I love the solidity Markram gives them at 4. And then you have two really explosive hitters in Heinrich Klaasen and David Miller. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, look, obviously those two boys coming with some runs in front of them, they're going to be dangerous, hellishly dangerous. So, you know, they have the platform. If they have the platform and they're batting in the last 10 overs, it's going to be entertaining in capital letters, that's for sure.
But if I'm putting you back in the coach's seat, what do you tell your top 4? How do you break down an innings, considering, say, you want Miller and Klaasen to come in, say, post the 35th? And you know that if those guys are at the crease in the last 15, even 150 is possible. So then what do you tell the top 4? Because Quinton de Kock isn't going to hang around. He's going to go for it.
Surely. I think the first 10 overs you've got to try and exploit. You have to try and maximise. Once that power play over is finished, then my personal opinion is almost you're not allowed to lose a wicket. You know, you must be able to work the ball, knock it into the gaps, identify your boundary option and be disciplined enough to go there. Run aggressively, all those sorts of things. And if you must lose wickets, okay, between 10 to 40, maybe 35, you're allowed to lose maybe 2. And there's no reason why that can't happen, provided the wicket's okay, of course.
Yeah.
If it's a bit dangerous or it's a lot harder, then you'd expect, the wickets to go. But, generally speaking, if you're irresponsible, then it puts too much pressure on that lower order and you can't maximise those last few overs when the most intense part of the game should be.
And in Bavuma and Markram, you sort of get a feeling they have those two batters who can absorb the pressure, keep it ticking. Yeah. I think that's good for them.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. And people, you try and fit a square peg in a square hole. You don't ask somebody to do a job that they're not quite capable of doing. But in that the engine room, I call it, between overs 15, maybe 35, 40, you got to be physically at it. You can't relax. You still got to be positive. I think that's a good word, positive, without being reckless.
That's what Kohli does very well. Stephen Smith, Williamson, that's what they do very well. They sort of, you don't realize it, but you're getting 4, 5 and over, the occasional boundary, and as you look at it, in 20 overs they've reached, say, 120, 125.
You can easily average 6 to 6.5. Average. You don't have to get it every over.
Yeah. Okay. But when I was looking at those games against Australia, the 3 games which they came back, they bowled Australia out every game. That's a, despite the lack of Henrik Nokia, and Rabada didn't play all those games, this is a serious bowling lineup.
Yeah, when you can knock over a team like Australia consistently, that really does help. I mean, if you're getting wickets, as I said earlier, if you are losing wickets, very difficult to win a game.
But what also helps is they've batters who can bowl. In fact, the warm-up game they were playing last night, there were 9 bowlers.
9 bowlers, yeah.
But this takes you back to New Zealand, perhaps? 92, 96?
Yeah, well, perhaps. But, in a real fair income match, you probably wouldn't want to bowl that many bowlers because it can be, if you've got options, more options than you really should have, it can confuse the captain. Who should I bowl?
But, Dav, just to play devil's advocate, your frontline spinner is Keshav Maharaj. Your frontline spinner, perhaps if you want to play him like India are going to play Kuldeep, you have Tabrez Samshi. Yeah. But Markram, who's a regular, he's not a part-timer. That off-spin is not part-time.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because he's now giving an option, a real valid option to the team to be flexible, to either pick another bowler or another batsman. It depends on who you're playing, what the conditions of the pitch are. So that's terrific for that team because he's developed in that way.
And another bowler who I think is emerging in the Lance Klusener mode, it's not, and bowler's not the right word, he's all-rounder, is Marco Jansen. He made his test debut against India, strapping tall lad. Yeah. But then just to see the way he was stonking it reminded me a lot of what Zulu did for South Africa in '99.
Surely. Zulu was probably a better batsman than a bowler.
Yeah. But he could bowl fast.
Oh, he could. This boy, Jansen, I think, has got terrific attributes as a bowler, and he's a left-hander as well. And his batting now is beginning to, improve all the time, and you can see the confidence in him. And that's the reason why he's improving with the bat, because he's got more confidence. So yes, he also provides a valuable spot for them.
Okay, let's, all these big teams, we're asking Dav to come up with his ideal playing 11. Dav, you want to find that on your notepad and sort of run me through your ideal South Africa 11? Obviously, De Kock and Bavuma up there, Van der Dusen at 3.
I have.
You have
number 4,
Markram is 4.
Yeah. Number 5 and 6 can be, the one's a lefty, one's a right. Klaasen and Miller.
The most explosive duo in world cricket at 5 and 6 at the moment?
Well, yeah, I think.
I don't think anyone's there.
Maybe not, but these two also are very good in that middle order. Yeah. Number 8, I'm going for I'm a 7 for Marco Jansen. He's very good at that. He's improving all the time. Number 8, perhaps another lefty in Rabada. He's also contributing with the bat. Keshav Maharaj, 9, and then 10 and 11, Shamsi and Ngidi.
You mean Ngidi?
Lungi and Ngidi, yeah. So that's not a bad 11. depending on...
It's not a bad 11 by any
yeah,
chance.
on conditions.
In fact, of all the teams we've been talking about, this is a very strong 11. In fact, when I look at this team, and you know, I'm going to get hammered if I say this aloud, but I am going to say it in any case. In India, when we're talking of the Indian team, you still don't know. There are 2 spots up there, right, which we don't know how they'll fill. When I look at this 11, they look to have all bases covered.
Just about, I reckon. But now it's a matter of putting it in the park. You know, you've got to transform that into performance.
Okay, let's look at that. Your team. Yeah? Do you have his team? Yeah, we have his team. Bavuma is very simple. He's being told be solid. Be solid, keep an end up. Tikok gives them a sort of an explosive start, but he can drop anchor as well. And then you sort of have Van der Dusen, Markram, Miller, Klaassen, Janssen, as you spoke. Okay, the batting order will be flexible. Keshav Maharaj, Kagiso Rabada, Tabrez, Shamsi, and then Lungi and Giri.
It covers a few bases, doesn't it? You've got an off spinner, you've got a wrist spinner, you've got a left arm spinner as well, and then you've got some pace.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's look at their fixtures, because the feeling I get, and they're carrying some serious momentum from that Australia series, if they can string a few wins through, then that belief starts to surge. The way I look at it, and when I look at their fixture list, Dav, I get a feeling that they can easily win 5. 4 to 5 games they can easily win.
I've got
and
4.
Then you got 4, I've got 5.
4.
I think they'll beat Australia, you don't think so?
No.
Yeah, but then it's just a matter of 1 more.
Well,
you get 5 or you get 6, you're in the semis.
That's right, and that's exactly the same thing what Sri Lanka was saying. We reckon we cross off these 4 teams, and we've got to play out of our skins in another 1 or 2, and we're through to the semi. That's what South Africa will definitely be thinking.
But with Sri Lanka and with South Africa, I think the difference is man to man, they've got more bases covered, and more consistently they've got covered. In fact, with Sri Lanka, the problem is the batting is brittle. Here it's not. It's just a very solid batting lineup, backed up by a very strong bowling unit.
The thing with Sri Lanka, though, also is a little bit conditions, maybe a little bit more in their favour.
Okay, where do you think they're going to finish now?
Well, I didn't have them in my semi-final list. But
Neither did I.
Yeah,
but we both have had to rework our opinions.
But I would think that they would be one of maybe 2 or 3 that could end up in the 4th position.
So we're looking at India, England, Australia as almost certainties to go through, but they're in the dark horse category.
I had New Zealand as the 4th.
As the 4th team. Yeah. So New Zealand, you're saying South Africa, perhaps Pakistan. You don't know Pakistan.
Perhaps Pakistan, yeah. Any one of those could squeeze in.
Okay, so will this be the tournament that they finally shed the tag of chokers? Remember, as I was saying earlier, South Africa come into this World Cup without much baggage. You know, we're talking of them as underdogs, not as favourites, and perhaps that's a good thing. Perhaps that is what takes them over the line. Dav Whatmore, as always, thank you so much for your inputs and remembering a great incident from the 2003 World Cup.
In Durban.
In Durban. That is a lesson for all of you out there. When you're playing a match, especially if you have DLS, have a printout ready and always go +1. Signing off for now, this is WION The World of Cricket. Nice.
Yeah.